I want to talk about Eboni Williams. We need you to get your license together. We need you to stop talking about bus drivers not being good enough today. We're going to get into it. We're having the discussion of Eboni Williams in the middle of a career apocalypse, they're calling it. 83 million jobs set to vanish globally by 2027. They're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. The second job that they're talking about disappearing was the post office job. The number one employer of black folks, I think we're 27% of the post office, is the post office.
And this is why it's important for our youth and adults to know more about politics and economics so we can point out the flaws in people's worldviews and perspectives. Just because one is an entrepreneur does not mean they have some type of special money or special intelligence. And it is a historical fact that entrepreneurship has never pushed any race into the middle class more than, did I say that the wrong way? Entrepreneurship has not been responsible for pushing any race of people into the middle class. It has been government jobs, period. Non-entrepreneurial jobs have gotten more people to the middle class than entrepreneurship throughout history. That's just a fact. So the idea that one is only valuable if they're an entrepreneur, one is only smart if they're an entrepreneur, one is only marriable or marriageable if they're an entrepreneur is crazy. And I think everybody knows that the majority of small businesses that fail. The majority of startups fail within 3 to 5 years. Everybody knows this. So why would that be a venture to be sought after if you know you're going to lose the money you put into it within 3 to 5 years? That doesn't make any sense. You would want something stable. And for black people throughout history in America, it's been the post office and other government jobs. Walmart's the largest private employer for everybody, but the government is the largest overall employer. The government employs more people than Walmart, more people than Amazon. All right, so the idea that we don't need government and everything should be privatized is ridiculous. The idea that if somebody has a job, they're worth less than somebody else is ridiculous.
You guys are having unserious conversations to avoid your failure. And Eboni Williams needs to be fleshed out so you can see how unserious you are. So I will do that today. Y'all will correctly point out Tucker Carlson and Fox News have a specific brand of conservative racism. Then let this black lady, Eboni K Williams, that was on the air at Fox News for years, discuss black dating. There's a craze here. So what I'm going to do is flesh out this craze, and I hope that you walk away today with something better in your mind.
You know, it's very important to understand who Eboni K Williams is. She used to work for Fox, a conservative right-wing news station, and she worked for them because she carries some of the same political thoughts as the people over there. And their thoughts is to shrink governments, which means cut government programs and increase business ownership. So they want people to rely on small businesses that grow into bigger businesses. And they think those that are poor and unemployed are that way because of their own doing, and that the government and government programs should not be a part of doing anything for anybody. So we should just privatize everything. So she's going to big up entrepreneurship. She wants everybody to be a business owner, and those that are not, she looks down upon. Those are some of the right-wing conservative thoughts people have, including Eboni K Williams. So that explains why she would not date a bus driver unless he owned the bus, because she thinks like those over at Fox Network, which is why she used to work for them.
I want to talk. You ain't no disrupting. You're grifting. You decided to use the wrong term, was the grifting. The cause of disruption, and I'm fine with that, Williams said. I would rather take the financial consequence and get what God has for me. After he did the 4 years at Fox and in Trump's era, and you think that you have the right to now speak on black employment, black issues. Well, we are having this discussion while Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, called on Congress to raise or suspend the debt limit so the U.S. could continue paying its bills. U.S. could run out of cash by June 1st. How many of you guys have a friend that shared this at some point last week? Or the last few weeks? How many of you guys have friends that are talking about the banking crisis on their Twitter timeline? How many of you have friends only talking about the Lakers and Doja Cat and this lady on their timeline? I need you to see it. I need you to understand it, because if you can't understand this, we can't do no politics, ADOS or nothing. We cannot help you get no reparations if you are a right-wing conservative, because you believe that you are your own answer in a country that had you as slaves and gave you no reparative justice. I can't teach you if you don't understand the language of letters. If you don't understand letters, how can I teach you sentences and paragraphs?
But these are things we got to talk about. We got to talk about the banking crisis. We got to talk about the differences between a central bank and a commercial bank. You know how central banks dictate the interest rates and how much loans are going to cost people, you know, how much the money supply, how much money is actually in supply is determined by the central bank. When money is created, is done by the central banks. Commercial banks are different than central banks. But all of this plays into our economy and how much things are going to cost. But most people are not talking about this. You're not getting taught this in school. It's rare that you grow up and in school they're teaching you the difference between a central bank and a commercial bank. They're not talking about stock buybacks that help stock prices. None of this stuff. But these are things that we have to pick up and talk to each other about so we understand the dynamics of our relationships. Because if you're expecting one thing from a group of people that you know nothing about politically and economically, then your outlook on them relationship-wise is going to be flawed. And that's what Eboni K Williams is doing. She's presenting a flawed perspective on black relationships as if black relationships are not connected to politics and economics, and they very much are. And if we don't understand what's happening to black people politically and economically, then we won't understand what's happening inside our relationships. All right, so ToneTalks does a great job of talking about all of this. I commend him and other people that talk about the political and economic situation of blacks and how that bleeds into our relationships and how horrible of a job Eboni K Williams is doing of pointing out why some of our black relationships look the way that they do. She's doing a horrible job of explaining why she would not date a bus driver and conflating just a lot of horrible things into the conversation about blacks and black men and their employment and wealth levels and income levels. She does a horrible job of blending those. She should not be someone we look to for advice on relationships or politics and economics, because she believes everything should be privatized, that the government really doesn't have much of a place in our lives, and that's never been true. It was the government that legalized the enslavement of our ancestors. It's the government that's responsible for all these economic booms and busts, coupled with the corporations. The corporations only exist because the governments say they exist, and the governments regulate these businesses and industries. So it's all connected, and we need to be talking about these things. That's just my heavy thought. I'm out.